Hey guys, it's Dan here, and we are on part 3 of the Thor cosplay build. So, parts 1 and 2, we're making Stormbreaker the axe from Infinity War, and now we're going to work on making the vest, or at least the first part of it, because we have other parts that we're going to make in other parts of videos. So, let's get to it. Okay, so as a good starting point, I found patterns for making the armor, but it wasn't complete and it didn't make it into a full vest. I modified them, and the guy's name is Sean. He has his video linked in the bottom, and all of his stuff I paid for, but I modified it so it fits my needs better. It makes it into an actual vest, and it looks more movie accurate. I also changed patterns around so it looks more movie accurate, because he specifies that his is not 100% movie accurate, but I think mine's a lot closer. Alright, so that's where I started. So I took some of Sean's patterns, just some bigger pieces for the front, cut them out onto this paper, and made sort of the vest part, just this part. And his patterns are a good starting point, but I wrapped this around, pulled this down, and laid some more paper on me, taped it up, and found that I can make this all cloth wraparound like the one in the movie, because he says that his aren't exactly movie accurate. They're really close, but with this piece, I'm going to be able to have this attach, loop around, and turn into an actual vest and connect on both parts. Now, I will need some help zipping it up, but it's about halfway zipped up. It's going to be a little tighter around the shoulders. See? This is what it's going to look like. When it's zipped up, this is going to pull in a little more. It's not going to be as loose at the top. And there's going to be foam everywhere, just making all the details. And we're going to have the belt and all that. Alright, so I got this black pleather, and I'm going to be using this for the vest material because it doesn't stretch that much, and that's what I want. I'm going to be using the back center, back sides, the front, which is going to be one piece but mirrored on this line, and the back piece that I made myself, which is going to make it into a vest. Alright, so you can see why I put the paper on the back, so that way these stay pretty rigid. You can see how normal paper wouldn't be that good. Alright, one important thing to note is that the back pieces, specifically these two, are meant to be made out of foam on his pattern, so you're going to want to add an extra ½ inch or just a border around it, because this is going to be made out of cloth. So I'm going around here and just going like this with a pin. So my pattern and the front jacket pattern are made for cloth. They already have it out, so you don't have to do that. It's like on the inside you can draw the lines, but for the specific pieces made from foam, which are going to be cloth, we're going to use an outside edge also, and we want to cut to that edge. Alright, so I took the pattern for the back center, folded it in half after I traced it onto this. I'm going to use this as the pattern. I'm going to pattern it twice, but I'm also going to have the ½ inch seam allowance around all the edges of this piece, so that way I can fold this onto the zipper and have all the seams just be good. Alright. Alright, so here's the front piece. Here's one on the backs, another one on the backs, one on the back tops, another one on the back tops, back middle, and a back middle. We did one pass and then folded over the edge and did a top stitch on it. So we're going to do that to the first part, is where we're going to sew the front pattern to the pattern I made. So we're going to sew the bottom side on first, and we're going to make sure that black is on the outside, white's on the inside, obviously. See, that's all you do. And look, it has this fancy two lines. Alright, so the two pieces we're going to sew together are the top and back. So we're going to start with the top back side and top back middle half, and we're going to make sure that we start with the flat sides being aligned. So when we get up here to this point, it's going to be less pertinent that the things line up, but it's really pertinent that the bottom's lined up. And since it's a curve, you have to really just be careful that you make both pieces curved, because this one's going to be inside, that one's going to be an outside curve. Alright, so when doing curves, I followed the seams really well on these lines, so the two lines are pretty parallel, maybe a little thinner right there. But you want to make sure when you're doing curves that you pull slightly, like before you sew the second seam, so that way this line, when it follows the curve on the outside, doesn't look a little wonky, because this one's a little skinny and it gets a little fat, because I think I didn't pull enough here before I did it to get the fabric used to the shape it should be at. So it sort of got a little more bent than it should be. But this is on the back and the cape's gonna cover it, so no biggie for now, just lesson learned. Alright, so we have Wiggles, the helper, here to help us. We're going to take the full front piece, and on the side, we're going to take patterns and sew these onto this so we can have the full back attached. And this is going to be a little difficult because there's a curve that's a pretty sharp curve. But we're going to make it work, and Wiggles is going to help. Oh, not bad at all. Look at curves. See that curve? That's what we're looking for. That's actually a really nice curve. Alright, so we're going to top stitch that. So we're not going to fold this edge over or these edges over because they are getting glued. And this is getting glued to something that's going to be right here, so we're not sewing this edge over. So other than this, these two swoops and where the zipper is at, we are going to fold over and do a finishing stitch with a top stitch. So it's going to look like that. Yay! So we have all of this. See how that edge is sewn over. This edge is sewn over all four edges. So now I'm going to attach the zipper. Okay, so I have it sewn up. I used some string to loop around the zipper so I can pull the zipper up because I can't really reach it with my arms. So far, this is what it looks like. This is going to have the chest glued to here and here, so it's going to attach with the foam. This is as far as I am right now. I think it looks good. Okay, so actually, some new clips have come out where it shows the back and the side, which I didn't previously have. So it means I'm changing up the template again, and that's going to delay this a little bit more. So I'm just roughing out some lines, putting the lines where they go. I'm going to put this in pen, tape it on, and then cut these patterns out again. Okay, so after some testing with the actual context man I'm going to be using instead of the one that I just test stuff with, I found that creases or divots in the leather can be made on the foam. So for places where it has stuff like lines in there, and it could be potentially 3 or 5 different panels, I'm going to actually just do one big sheet of foam wrapped in leather with V-grooves cut for each one, and then it's going to be glued into each spot. That's the theory, at least. Alright, so here is the layouts of what I'm going to cut out, and let's get to cutting out the foam and the leather. Okay, so here is some final layouts. I have the groove cut in this one. I'm going to cut the grooves in these 2 pieces, and I'm making it match the reference photos. Okay, so we have grooves cut in this, grooves cut in this, and what I'm doing is I draw the lines and then draw a line next to each line for where I'm going to be cutting it. I take my X-Acto knife, make sure it's sharp, so I sharpen it, and then I put it on one of these lines, on the outside line, and I slowly pull it through here, and I watch the tip of the blade, make sure it doesn't go too deep. I go all the way down this line, all the way down the other outside line, and then I slowly pull back and start cutting. So I will show you. So the second side, I didn't cut too deep, but there it goes. See, it's mainly cut throughout most part of it. There it goes. So yeah, you get the idea. Do that to all these. Yes. I'm going to put contact cement on both of these. When it's still a little bit wet, I'm going to attach them and try to push the creases in on this. I'm going to let this dry for a little bit, get all the gas to degas, and then push everything back in place. Roll out those lines again, and then clean the contact cement off of this. It actually comes off easier than you'd think because it's pretty hard to get this stuff to stick to stuff. Piece is showing some promise. I'm going to let this fully dry overnight, but it looks like the creases are staying in there and it looks pretty good. Yay! So it's the next day, totally dried up perfectly well. This looks great, stayed in there. So I'm going to glue this piece on so I can line up all the other pieces. Alright, that just temporarily holds it down while I get the super glue out and super glue all these edges. Okay, so to get this piece to properly fit with this lining up with the pencil marks, obviously the fake leather adds thickness to each side, so I'm going to have to cut along this pin line, make this thinner on this side, and then these pieces are going to fit a lot better where they're supposed to instead of pushing. Alright, remember to give yourselves plenty of room around each piece, about ½ an inch would be due, because you have to fold it over the thickness of the foam and onto the back, so that way there's this facing the back side so we can super glue it to the other half. I have some old phone cord laying on top of where all the creases are cut into the green foam underneath the pleather. Tape them on. I'm going to put weights on them and just let this dry overnight, and they'll hopefully push the pleather into the creases where the grooves are cut. I know I said I was going to wait until the next day, but it is just the nighttime. I want to see what these look like. So I'm going to. So the seam is still in there. That's as deep as it goes anyway, so I think that worked, yeah. There's one piece, all the glue taken off, all the tape from that taken off, and the lines are in there. I think it looks good, so we're going to attach these. Okay, so I just super glued these two bigger panels on, and I only laid it underneath each of the lines. I didn't use contact cement because I think it would have been a waste. It's not really doing much for it, and the super glue bonds this stuff to itself permanently, since you know the edges are folded under, so there's an entire edge of the pleather underneath each foam piece that's securing it permanently to this. So when I was testing the material strength, it's as strong as or stronger than sewing it, which is good. Alright, so the next two pieces we're going to cut is just this angled piece that's going to go right here, and this strip that goes right here. As you can see, is just that angled piece and the strip that goes down. So we're just going to do that on each side. Alright, so I added these lines and these accents, which you can see, lines, accents. This piece is going to be part of the neck guard, which is going to come down to about right here and go all the way up over the back and just be over this. It's going to attach on top. I think I need to take this piece out because that's going to be covered in the fake leather and then glued back in. Then I'm just going to totally cover this front with the pleather and then glue it on. Okay, so on this piece we have the neck guard and circly domey thing, and you can see that these lines don't poke out, so I'm going to trim. Oh, this is going to be behind it. I'm going to trim this off and trim this off so that this doesn't poke out, and I don't really think that's part of it. And I also made a pattern for this piece which better fits. I mean, ignoring this hole that's cut out, but that better fits the shape of how it matches. So this was all matching that a little bit better, and it used to look like this. So you can see there's stuff up here, this goes straight across, there's cuts in here, it goes down deeper. Oh yeah, look at that. So that's all wrapped. I'm gonna glue it on, then add accents. Okay, so I took this piece of foam, cut it into shape, scored some lines with an X-Acto knife, and used the heat gun to make those lines open up and shape it into this shape that is going to go right here. Okay, so as you can see, this piece is curved. I used a heat gun to heat it up, and this piece is flat, so it used to look like this, just the opposite. And you can see here how on this one there's a line drawn. This one, it looks like it's cut off, so I just used a knife, cut it, and then I sanded it a little flat. Going to curve this one with the heat gun, heat it up, and then coat both of these in the fake leather and then glue it on. Alright, so here's an update. I have the vest mainly put together, and one other thing I figured out with this failed print, before I polished it, it failed, that super glue binds these things together really strong. Yeah, so once I get these smoothed and painted and looking like the actual ones, I will be able to bond them really well with super glue because it looks like it's not going to come off. So these are the metal circle pieces on Thor's thing. And as you can see, this is the old style paint, not as reflective. So that's almost like a bad mirror. And this is just like not even showing my form. Okay, so I'm taking some liquid latex, I'm painting on different parts where the silver is going to show through the black paint, just like right there. So I'm matching up those lines on this piece, and I'm going to do those lines on this piece. All right, now these match up with those, so I'm going to paint these black, and then we're going to rub that off, and we're going to do it to all the rest of them. Yeah, so I got all of them painted black, and there's the test piece with just me randomly putting it on there. So I'm gonna peel all this off and make them look good. All those bumps are gonna be peeled off. All right, so I'm taking these with the paint on them, running the water over it, and using this wet rag to wipe off some stuff. So put it in, spin it around, and I'll show you the next step. All right. Now it's raised up, and you just rub those with the rag until they come off. Yeah, so that's the paint rubbed off. There they all are. Now you attach them with glue. Okay, so we have these discs. I glued these 3 on, and this one, and I'm about to glue on next. As you can tell, there's 2 different heights I have to glue this on. So for this one, I cut out a piece of foam that fit right here, wrapped it in the pleather, glued it to this, and then glued that down. So we're going to cut this to the right size. Just going to be about cut right there, so it doesn't overlap any of these 2 pieces. Wrap it and then glue these together. Okay, so here we have some contact cement that is on both of these, and we're just going to attach them like that. And okay, so as you can see, I just folded over the edges, cut out some triangles so everything would fit. Now I'm going to glue this onto the circle, and I'm going to glue the circle and this onto the piece. Into the right spot, so just and glue it on. Okay, so here's the vest with those 4 on there. The other 2 are on the belt, and I'm going to make the belt in a separate video. But let's see this on me now. Okay, so here it is. As far as I've gotten, this is all the stuff minus the belt, minus the details up here, and minus the neck guard. So the neck guard's going to be a separate video, the belt's going to be a separate video, and the internal details with like the black foam right here and neck piece is going to be a separate video. Other than that, and the metal's going to be taken off the zipper. Other than that, here it is. This is Thor's vest, part 1. Okay, so I just added some accent pieces underneath each circle because I realized that I was missing those. Hey, so here's the final build. I know, not the final build. We still have some things to do. This video is getting a little long, so we're going to cut it off right here. If you hadn't have noticed, I now have a Patreon account, and if you support me on Patreon, you can get your name to show up right here. Like our first Patreon, look at that. Whatever their name is, I'm going to put it in here. Yeah. So, thank you to them, and they are helping me, and you can check out my Patreon link in the video description below. So, if you like this video, please give it a like. Make sure you leave a comment on it about something. We're going to continue the Thor cosplay build in this full video series that I'm making right now. And you can subscribe right here to check out all my other cool stuff that I make. Be sure to subscribe so you can see and get updates for everything that I do. You can click on these videos over here. These videos are me making stuff or doing parkour, and YouTube's going to really recommend something that you're going to love seeing. So, we'll see you next time with another Thor build or something else.